quote Kofi Annan, knowledge is power and information is liberating. Let's quote Einstein, knowledge is acquired through experience. Everything else is information. This is why it's so important. This is why this matters, because information is power, and whoever controls information ultimately controls people. When you control what people see, you will control what they think. And one thing I've learned over the past 3 years of creating social media platforms have an agenda. They have a narrative that you need to follow. Freedom of speech states that in order for society to be in a freedom of speech environment, there needs to be no restriction on what they are capable of saying. And unfortunately, as long as there are hate speech policies on social media platform and even Twitter, freedom of speech is impossible.
This is the Nico Lagan Show. Warning. This show contains explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. Real, raw, and shooting you straight. This is the Nico Lagan Show. And now your host, Nico.
So if all is good, let's just get into it. So for a lot of people on the planet, social media has become their number one source of information. They use it to get their news, stay updated about what's going on into the world. This makes social media some of the most powerful platforms in the world. So this go on for the question that I'm going to ask you today. Is Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter a good thing or a bad thing? Welcome to the Nico Lagan Show. I'm your host, Nico Lagan. I gotta say that first and foremost, before I get into touching on even the question that I asked, I gotta tell you that it normally takes me about 3-4 hours of research in order to prepare for one of these streams. Like 30 minutes of episode takes me at least 3 hours of research every day. And I got stuck into a rabbit hole of information this morning. I've been in it since like 6 o'clock this morning, and it's 10 where I am. So yeah, I've been stuck in all this information about Twitter, social media, and everything that's going on right now with how people consume their news. So before I get to answer the actual question, I want to give you guys a proper rundown as to what it means to have a social media platform today, what it is all about, because we take it for granted. We think that it's just a place where we post some pictures, we read a bit about what's going on in the world. But one thing that we fail to understand is how fucking powerful those platforms actually are. They are absolutely one of the most powerful entities on the planet. So let me hit you up with some knowledge. About 4.48 billion, so let's call it 4.5 billion people currently use some form of social media worldwide. That's about 60% of the world population is on one platform, at least one platform of social media. In the US, 72% of adults use social media. You can break it down to 69% of American adults use Facebook, 73% YouTube, 75% is Instagram, and 73% is Snapchat. I gotta say that I know nothing about Snapchat. Never used it. Don't know what the purpose is except for showing pictures that disappears. So if anybody out there wants to correct me or tell me what this is all about, it's about the only social media I've never used, and I have no idea what it's for. That being said, TV is still the most popular platform for Americans to get their news, at least for the time being, and it really depends on the age group. And let me share this with you. So as per cable TV, you're looking at about 57% of Americans are consuming their news. So they get their news information, what's going on in the world, from the TV still. This is specifically for the age group between 30-49, 50-64, and 65 and above. When you start looking at the statistics, 45% of 30 to 49 still uses TV as their main source of information, 72% for 50 to 64, and 65 plus for 85% for the 65 plus. And you can clearly see that there's a trend going down, going less and less. Like if 85% of 65-year-olds are still using TV as their main source of news, you're looking at 50% for social media platform when it comes to 18 to 29. So you can say that over the years, over the invention of social media, which was in 1997, the news outlet have been slowly replaced by online, by getting their information where it's a bit easier. Today it's just fucking opening up your phone and there you go, you have all the information that you want. But all to say that there is a tendency nowadays to go more and more towards online, and I don't think this is surprising to any of you, right? So 57% of people still use TV, 38% in every single age group use online for their news, 25% of people still use radio, and 20% use newspapers. Those are the stats. Now, why does it matter? Why am I talking about the way people consume information / how do they obtain their news? Well, because social media is becoming so powerful because of exactly that, because people are accessing it for the news, for information. So the access to information is done almost 50% through social media. And if you look at history, prior to 1997, there was three main places. It was TV, it was the radio, and it was the newspaper. This were the three platforms where people got their news from. The big difference from today, because obviously TV, radio, and newspapers are still there today, but back then they were local radio shows, they were local TV stations, they were local newspapers. So everything was owned and operated by local individual. So let's say me, as Nico Lagan, I could open a radio station and operate it, and this gave the people on my area, my niche, my territory, if you will, access to local news by somebody that lived there, by somebody that had a vetted interest to be in that local place. Now, the other difference that it made too is that the news was relevant to where you were. You were not getting local news from Texas if you're located in New Mexico. So the news was local. And one thing that's interesting to note is that in 1975, the FCC, I know you guys have all heard the word FCC. If you don't know what it stands for, it's Federal Communication Commission. They put in a rule called newspaper broadcast cross ownership. Basically what it meant is that one company could only own one newspaper or one broadcast station. So that meant a radio station or a TV station in one single market. Meaning that if you're in Denver, like right now we're in Colorado, so Denver is the closest biggest city to us. So that means that if I wanted to publish the news, I could only own one of the three, either a newspaper, either a radio station, or a TV station. This prevented people from taking over a certain market. This prevented people to have a monopoly of the information in a certain community. And the rule basically prevented any single corporation entity from becoming too powerful as a single voice within a specific community. That being said, in 1996, this all went to shit. Simply put, there was an act that was passed by Congress in FCC removing the restriction of radio station a specific individual or an entity could own both locally and nationally within the same market. So that means that unlike the rule that was put in 1975, this rule in 1996 basically opened the door for companies to start buying up and buying up and buying up news outlets. So basically, now there was no restrictions. I could own every single news station that I wanted, newspaper. I could own TV station in all the same market. So basically, this gave the opportunity to corporation, to entities, to people to own the voice in one single market. Which also means that not only somebody locally could own the actual message, but somebody nationally could do the same. So your local news is not, could not, it wasn't sure, but there were some chances that your local news was not coming from a local source anymore. And this is what you're seeing today. Open your TV, turn on your TV, look at the local news, look at the local newspaper if your area still has one, look at all your news outlet, even your radio stations, and you'll see that most of that information is not local anymore. It belongs to a bigger entity, which can be extremely problematic. If you look at what happened since, let's look at some numbers. Since 2005, more than 2,200 American local newspaper closed down. That's 2,200 American local newspaper closed down. Did you know that in the US, currently, there's 200 counties that do not have a local newspaper? That's nearly 50% of counties only have one newspaper, and that 6% of counties have no dedicated news coverage at all. So 56% of counties either have one single source of news or none at all. This is what the statistics are showing. And you know what? One can argue, and I said the same thing in the past, that we can blame the newspaper for their demise. They did not move with the time. They did not do the transition to go online, to have a social media platform, or to go on the internet fast enough. So it's their fault. I get it. I said the same thing when taxi drivers back in the days were complaining about Uber. You know, it's very easy to complain when technically you didn't do anything to help your situation. If you didn't get with the time, you know what? You can be blamed for having the issue of not being able to compete with who's taking over the market. But that's not the point of all this, and this is what I want to stress to you guys. Although this is true, and although I would agree with this, the point in the matter is that since 1996, since the new rule of the FCC and the Congress, it has allowed news outlet to be possessed by fewer and fewer entities. So fewer and fewer corporation individuals are owning the information that you can see on the news, on the TV, radio, newspaper. It's said that about 15 billionaires and 6 corporations own most of the US media outlet. So think about this for a second. Really pay attention to what I just said. 15 billionaires and 6 corporations own most of the US media outlet. The biggest ones being AT&T, Comcast, Walt Disney Company, National Amusement, which includes Viacom and CBS, and News Corp and Fox Corporation, which are both owned by the Murdoch family. This means that there is a very, very small amount of people that own news outlet. But that can't be the same thing for social media, right? Since 50% of our information is now consumed by social media, this cannot be the case, can it? Well, I got some bad news for you. I got some really bad news for you, because the point in the matter is that it's even worse when it comes to social media. It's actually worse. And let me tell you why it's worse. It's worse because as per 2022, Meta Platform Inc., or just Meta, previously known as Facebook, owns and operate 3 of the biggest platform. So 3 out of 4 biggest platforms are now owned and operated by Meta. You have Facebook, you have WhatsApp, and you also have Instagram. And Facebook is number 1 at 2.96 billion monthly active users, followed in 3rd place by WhatsApp, which has about 2 billion monthly active users. And when you look at Instagram, which is the 4th most popular platform in the world, you're looking at about 2 billion monthly active users. Google, which owns the 2nd biggest platform, the social media platform in the world, which is YouTube, has about 2.2 billion monthly active users. And let's not forget for what Google has been known for, the most popular search engine on the planet. And just to put it into perspective, just to kind of blow your mind on the numbers, Google search engine handles about 99,000 searches every single second. That's 8.5 billion searches per day. They say that the average person uses Google 3 to 4 times a day. And when you think about it, I do too. Oh man, I am in the, considering just the research I did for this episode, I probably used it 50 times just this morning. So I get it. Like, we use it, it's there. But what's fucked up is this. What's really fucked up is this, and I want to put that into perspective, how powerful Google search engine actually is. Google currently handles 92.7% of the world internet search queries. 92.7%. If you look at their closest competitor, it turns out to be Bing at 2.78. But who the fuck is Bing? Who the fuck uses Bing? Who uses Yahoo at 1.6%? Or Baidu? I didn't even know what Baidu was until I looked at it this morning. So just to say that 92.7, so let's call it 93% of the world's query on the internet is handled by one single company. So I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, and I want to recap it. I want to put it into perspective. So you have 6 corporations that owns most of the news outlet in the US, and you have 2 corporations, being Meta and Google, that owns 4 of the most popular social media platform, the 4 most popular social media platform in the world, and the most popular search engine by 93% ownership of the searches. Between those 2 platforms, just between those 2 entities alone, it accounts for 9.16 billion monthly active users. Think about this. We're about 7.8 or 7.9 billion people on the planet. So that means that not only do they reach 60 or 70% of people, they reach them in multiple different ways. Like, take me for example. I use Facebook, I use Instagram, I use WhatsApp. So Facebook right now is capable of getting to me on those 3 places. That doesn't even count that they own Messenger, that I use every single day. Same thing for Google. I use YouTube every single day. So that means that they reach me YouTube and as well on their search media, on their search engine. So those 4 companies alone get to me at least 6 different ways. That's fucked up when you think about it. This is how much power those companies have. And to state or to quote Kofi Annan, knowledge is power and information is liberating. Let's quote Einstein, knowledge is acquired through experience. Everything else is information. This is why it's so important. This is why this matters, because information is power, and whoever controls information ultimately controls people. When you control what people see, you will control what they think. And one thing I've learned over the past 3 years of creating social media, and especially over the past 7 to 8 months where this is all I've been doing, social media platforms have an agenda. They have a narrative that you need to follow. If you do not follow their narrative, your content will be blocked. You'll end up shadow banned, or your content is just not going to be pushed to your audience. It's really that simple. They have certain things they want you to talk about. If you follow their narrative, you'll be extremely popular. It is not hard to build a social media platform that is successful if you bow down to your masters, if you will. But if you go against the grain like all of my content does, it is extremely hard to get a massive audience because there is an agenda. And this is where the problem is. This is exactly where the problem is. Free speech no longer exists on the internet. Like even in Canada, I cannot think off of the top of my head what is the new legislation that they put in place, but there's a new bill that came through where the government can legislate what you post on social media. So on social media and on the internet as a whole. So now they're going to be able to refrain what you see. They're going to be able to refrain what you post. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's legal consequences to you posting stuff that they don't agree with. But this is how strong the internet has become and how easy it is to be controlled. 2 single entities control most of the worldwide traffic, and about 6 corporations in the US control what you hear, what you see, and what you read in news outlet. So going back to the original question, you know what? Let's talk about this before I answer the question. I'm gonna make you wait yet again. Why did Elon Musk buy Twitter in the first place? Like it's been a year. It was April 14th, if my memory serves me right, that Elon Musk bought Twitter. And he said when he originally bought it that he thought the company was overzealous in censoring speech on a platform that, in his view, is akin to the town square of the internet. And also, unlike most of us, he actually had the means to put the money together and actually buy the platform. But what did he mean by the Times Square? You know, prior to TVs, radio station, newspapers was still there, but a lot of the places where you would get your information was the town square. So the most popular place in your town, people would go there and they would discuss information. They would discuss what was going on. They would discuss with the politicians. The politicians are normally very close to the town square. So they were able to get information, to exchange information. And if you look at how social media platforms work today, this is exactly what it's become. We get to, let's say I post something, you don't like it, you like it, you like it, you don't like it, you comment, you don't comment, or you comment something good, you comment something bad, you go to a blog where you can read somebody's information, what they think about a certain thing, or you can go on a forum and you have an open conversation with other people that allows you to connect with people that think like you, with people that don't think like you, but you get information. And this is what he means by having a town square. And this is exactly right. This is what social media platforms have become. And this is the power of social media. Unfortunately for Elon Musk, the platform that he bought is only ranked about 15th most popular platform in the world. And since taking over, he's lost about the monthly tweets. If you look at the amount of tweets that are posted every month, has dropped down by about 25%. Which, when you think about it, that's a lot. There's a lot. Like, it's 75% of what it was a year ago on April 14, 2022. One thing that's interesting, though, and I can't say that I'm surprised of that drop because of the numbers I'm going to share with you, it looks like 61% of the users of Twitter were left-leaning. So they were more Democrats when Elon Musk took over. So I get it. I understand why people dropped off that much because, let's not lie to each other, most leftists do not like Elon Musk, right? So the numbers make sense. And the thing is, if we look, so this is why he said he took over. Is that true? Is that not true? Who the hell knows? There's no way to know. We have to give it more time. But one thing that he did do when he took over Twitter is to reinstate certain accounts that had been blocked because they went against Twitter's policy. I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with this. You got a guy like Donald Trump that was blocked from Twitter, that was reinstated. Same thing for Kanye West, same thing for Jordan Peterson, and same thing for Andrew Tate. There's many more, but I'm not going to go down that list altogether. But all to say that this is one of the things that he did. Now, does that mean that he believes in free speech? Is the reason that he did that free speech? It's a valid question. That is the exact same thing I was wondering when this was starting to happen last year. I'm like, okay, is he doing this for the common good? Does he want more of diverse opinions to be shared on his platform? This is what he had to say. I found a post, a tweet where he talks about this, and this is what he had to say. New Twitter policy is freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. Negative/hate tweets will be max deboosted and demonetized, so no ads or no other revenue to Twitter. You won't find the tweets unless you specifically seek it out, which is no different than the rest of the internet. You know what? There's a concept that most people are familiar with. You guys have all heard of freedom of speech. The problem with having a policy that says that you can use hate or negative tweet to demonetize or deboost certain posts means that Twitter is not a freedom of speech platform. Freedom of speech literally means that there's no restrictions on speech. No matter what the speech is, it is not blocked, it is not prevented. He's playing with words when he says that, there's no freedom of speech. There is freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. You know, it's the same thing as putting somebody, if we go back to the town square, it'd be the same thing as having me saying something that people don't like and having somebody put a muzzle on me. Oh, I'm not preventing you from saying it, but I'm not able to reach the people. The people can't hear what I have to say. So is it the same thing? You tell me. You tell me what it means to you. But to me, this is for sure. Freedom of speech states that in order for society to be in a freedom of speech environment, there needs to be no restriction on what they are capable of saying. And unfortunately, as long as there are hate speech policies on social media platform and even Twitter, freedom of speech is impossible. As I like to say, freedom of speech is only possible when there's no restrictions on speech, no if or buts. It is simply everything is accessible or not everything is accessible. This is the truth, this is the matter, and I want to know your opinion. I want to know what you guys think about this, so please leave me a comment below. If you're checking out the podcast right now, you're looking at the YouTube version, give me comments below, because I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that Elon Musk had freedom of speech in mind when he bought Twitter, just like he said, or it is just a control thing? It is just a way for him to gain more power with owning one of the biggest social media platforms in the world? But there's two things though that I want to leave you on this. The two most important things to me as a Canadian that Americans possess is their first two amendments: freedom of speech and the freedom to bear arms. So keep that in mind. Freedom of speech is number one. Now, we all know, I spent the last 30 minutes speaking about this, but social media does not like opinions like mine. So if you want to see the uncensored version, or you want to see exactly what I'm talking about because you're not seeing my content right now, because I'm always shadow banned or I'm always getting blocked, I suggest that you go to my website at nicolagan.com, look at my blog. I post there 2-3 times a week, and I make no excuses there. If you want to know my uncensored opinion, it is right there. Thank you for watching. I'm grateful for every single one of you out there that's on Instagram, that's on TikTok, that's on YouTube, that's on any platform out there where my podcasts are distributed. I am extremely grateful for every single one of you. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching. And on that note, I want to remind you that the world is changed one man at a time, and it takes just one man to change the world. Peace out.
You've been listening to The Nico Lagan Show. Nico has been involved in the martial arts for 20 years. He's a Muay Thai coach, focus coach, podcaster, and sought-after public speaker. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you've gotten some useful and practical information. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Coach Nico Lagan and on YouTube at The Nico Lagan Show. See you next time.